Tony Alford is out at Ohio State, and he is in at that team up north. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. I am your host for this episode, JR, and we are going to be talking about Tony Alford out at Ohio State. So let's start here. Why would Tony Alford want to leave Ohio State? Well, the rumors that are kind of circulating now, and they honestly were kind of going this way a little bit before then, but they just weren't as strong, is that Ryan Day was not happy with the way things were going with the running back room. Around the time of January, people were speculating that maybe Tony Alford would be moving on. Maybe Ryan Day would kind of give him until that kind of coaches conference to maybe find another job, and the new offensive coordinator would bring somebody else in. They thought maybe Bill O'Brien would bring somebody in, and after Bill O'Brien left, then they thought, well, maybe Chip Kelly will bring somebody in. However, once the coaching conference happened and once Bill O'Brien was hired, it didn't seem like anything else was going to happen. Well, long behold, according to some different people out there with sources, they say that Tony Alford did in fact interview with Notre Dame back after the 2022 season. Now, I don't know how truthful that actually is. However, that's the thought, is that Tony Alford, coming from Notre Dame, wanted to go back to Notre Dame because he wanted to leave. He didn't want to be here anymore, mainly because Ryan Day was kind of putting it on him and made it seem like that's the way it was going to go. Again, no way to know if that's 100% true or not, but that seems to be what people are saying around. Now, we do know that on February 15th, that there were coaches that were extended their contracts. Keenan Bailey, Jim Knowles, and of course, James Laurinaitis was hired on February 15th. However, a coach who only had 1 year left that did not get extended was Tony Alford. And typically when a coach is in their last year, like Corey Dennis was this past year, it's not a great look. It's kind of a prove it year. You want those guys to be on at least 2 years in their contracts, so that way you kind of know for recruiting, and the recruits can feel like, if I commit there, this coach is still going to be there for me. Well, it would kind of seem like people were a little surprised, because when this announcement came down, we saw a number of Ohio State players, Jermaine Matthews, Denzel Burke, Brandon Ennis, even Jeremiah Smith, putting out things like thumbs down, wow, I can't believe this, different things like that, just showed they were kind of shocked. And at first I thought, well, maybe they had no idea any of this was coming. But we like I said, we've talked about this and people have heard about this, little rumblings here and there. Maybe it just did catch all the players off guard. But to me, it seemed like the players were more shocked at where Tony Alford was going. Not so much that he was himself going. Maybe the timing of it did shock them a little bit. I mean, you're in spring training right now, or spring practices right now, and maybe that was a little unsettling to them. However, I think it was probably more the surprise of where Tony Alford was going, and not so much that Tony Alford was going himself. Now, the other piece that's out there, and I think this is a little bit more credible, coming from Jay Book on Twitter, is that Tony Alford had this job offer for 2 weeks before he actually took it. And that is something that could be concerning, because now the Michigan site is also talking about this on 24/7, that it's possible Tony Alford may have brought some of the offensive playbook, which the offensive playbook really isn't all that big right now. He might have brought some of the recruiting information for the 2025, 2026 class, things like that, with him over to that team up north. Do we know any of that for sure? No, that's what their site is saying right now. However, we do know that this was not something that was offered, and Tony Alford just took right away. This is something that Tony Alford knew about when he was going into spring practices. So the question then is, will Ohio State be okay without Tony Alford? You know, Tony Alford been at Ohio State 9 years. Typically, you don't last 9 years at a program as a position coach unless you're doing a very good job. And Tony Alford is a good coach. I'm not going to say he's a bad coach. Tony Alford is a good coach. In my mind, he's done a good job with running backs. However, Tony Alford's his coaching career at Ohio State has not been perfect. It's not been spotless. He did lose out Bijan Robinson, who was supposedly a silent commit to Ohio State. He lost out on Jordan Lyle and Mark Fletcher late to Florida schools the past 2 recruiting cycles. He did not improve Trey Sermon's draft stock, and even he did not play Trey Sermon the entire year. If you remember, Trey Sermon broke Eddie George's record when he was running at Ohio State in that 2020 season. Sometimes it's hard to remember because it's all kind of a blur, right? But Trey Sermon was prolific, and he was one of the reasons why we didn't win the national championship, or at least wasn't even competitive in the national championship, because how early he got hurt in that game. Now, obviously, that's not on him. That's not on Tony Alford. But still, his injury did affect us because he was such a focal point of that offense. We also lost out on Jordan Marshall, and the rumor there that Jordan Marshall has spoken a little bit about, but not given the most credence to, and is kind of the recruiting rumor, is that because Ohio State, they didn't get on him quick enough. They didn't go talk to him quick enough. Michigan was quicker to him. They were going to him and actually showing interest sooner, and Jordan Marshall took offense to that. And so we're seeing here a few situations where Tony Alford has not been the best recruiter. And what is it that Ryan Day says he wants in his staff more than anything else? He wants excellent recruiters. That is the number one thing that Ryan Day says that he looks for. And so after a while, when you lose out on Mark Fletcher, when you lose out on Jordan Lyle, when you lose out on Bijan Robinson, when you lose out on Jordan Marshall, Ryan Day's not going to stand up for that. He's not going to allow that. And maybe Ryan Day did have a hand in Tony Alford leaving. Probably didn't have a hand in him leaving for Michigan, but maybe he did have a hand in it, because at the end of the day, Tony Alford was not excelling like a Brian Hartline or Tim Walton. Again, I'm not going to say he was a bad recruiter. I'm not going to say he was a bad coach, but he was not excelling in those areas, which leads us to believe that Ryan Day may not have been completely satisfied with Tony Alford as the coach. So how does this impact the 2024 season, right? We're all concerned about this season. We want this season to go well. We want to make sure, we have this wonderful, excellent, best running back duo in the country in Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. Will anyone transfer? Is anybody going to transfer away? And truthfully, that's on Ryan Day. Can Ryan Day salvage this running back room and say, look, guys, you're here for Ohio State? And did he boast that enough with these players? Did these players commit here because they want to come to Ohio State, play at one of the premier programs in the country that is always, always, always a top tier program in the nation? Or did they come to Ohio State to play for Tony Alford? Tony Alford, kind of like the dad of the team, is what some people have said. Very relational. You look at what he put out there when he left Ohio State, the little graphic where he's thanking all of these high school coaches, not just coaches, but administrators. Well, this is a very, very relational man. And of course, that's how you do well in recruiting. However, is Ryan Day able to retain those players? I think that's on him. Trevion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Dallin Hayden, James Peoples, Sam Williams-Dixon. And I think he will. I think Ryan Day is a good enough recruiter and will do a good enough job with these guys, and will keep all of them happy enough to stay. Now, will we lose one? Possibly. I could see us losing a Dallin Hayden. I could see us losing a James Peoples. I could see us losing, one of those two. I don't really think Sam Williams-Dixon, Quinshon Judkins, Trevion Henderson. However, I could see one of those two possibly losing. But the most important part is who Ohio State hires to fill this role. This is the part I'm excited about, because Tony Alford leaves one of, if not the best, I think it's the best, running back rooms in the nation for the new hire to come in. That's obviously going to be attractive for them. Not only that, but Tony Alford was one of the highest paid running back coaches in the nation. So he leaves that salary now to be able to be used to hire somebody. In addition to that, Ohio State is the hottest team this offseason, somebody that everybody is looking at. So Ryan Day has all of this momentum with his team. He should be able to go out to different running back coaches and say, I'm not interviewing you. You're not interviewing us. I'm interviewing you because everybody should want to come here and be here. You're going to skyrocket your career with Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins this year. You're going to have great backs in the backfield like Dallin Hayden, James Peoples, who are going to be ready to go. And you have wonderful Ohio running back talent and Bo Jackson and other guys coming up as well. So when you look at it, it's a very, very attractive position, one that the best running back coaches in the nation should be attracted to. Now, who are some of those running back coaches or just coaches that might take a running back role, our running back coach role at Ohio State? Well, I have kind of a long list. We're going to try to get through them relatively quickly because I don't want to spend, hours here talking about each one. But the number one name that we're seeing everybody talk about, Scottie Graham over at Washington. Now, Scottie Graham was a 3-year starter for Ohio State. He was a captain as a senior. I mean, wonderful reputation with the Buckeyes, has been a great reputation, not just with the Buckeyes, but he was an assistant AD for a little while. He worked for the NFLPA for a little while, and now he's coaching at Washington after coaching at Arizona since 2021. Now, do I think that Ryan Day wants to hire somebody who's only been coaching since 2021? I don't think so. I don't think Scottie Graham is the guy. Would I love to have him be the guy eventually? Yes, I'd love for somebody with more coaching experience to be the guy, but I don't see that happening. Eddie George from Tennessee State is another one that everybody has been talking about. You know the name Eddie George. You know the star running back that he is, Mount Rushmore type of player that could be up there with others. He was offered the job at Ohio State last year, apparently, according to Dave Biddle at 24/7 Sports. He was offered the job, according to him. Now, Eddie George turned it down, and apparently, from what Tim May says on Twitter, Eddie George has now, again, not turned down an offer, but has publicly said he is not interested in the job. Will Ryan Day make the job a little bit more enticing? Will he try to steal him away? Who knows? Everybody says things. However, we won't know until the end. I tend to think that Eddie George is going to stick with Tennessee State. Seems like he really wants to keep growing what is there. But at the end of the day, you never know. He might move to Ohio State, take that job, and learn under Chip Kelly and Ryan Day. Another one is Pepe Pearson, also at Tennessee State. Another former Ohio State running back. He is the 11th all-time leading rusher for Ohio State. Tons of coaching experience. He has been a running back coach, a head coach for an arena football team, I believe. He's been at Old Dominion, Marshall, Youngstown State, tons of lower school places like that. And he could be somebody that might be interested in coming to Ohio State. Now, does he have the prestige that you might want him to have in order to be the running back coach at Ohio State? I don't know. Can he recruit? I don't know. Those are some of the questions that Ryan Day is going to have to seriously think about. Personally, I love Pepe Pearson. I think Pepe Pearson would be great at Ohio State. It would be fun having another former player. However, at the end of the day, I just don't know if he has the recruiting chops to do it. So I'm going to say that one's probably not going to happen. Another one is the Alabama running backs coach, Robert Gillespie, who has been there since 2021. He was a top-tier recruiter for Nick Saban, one of the best recruiters in the nation, signing tons of top 10 running backs in the 2021, 2022, and 2023 class. He is, in fact, a straight shooter, somebody who is going to come in and get you recruits. So, is he somebody that Ohio State would go after? I think so. I think Ohio State would definitely look at somebody who is only 44 years old, and I say only 44 because he has 20 plus years of running back coach experience. Now, 44 might not seem like the youngest for a position coach. However, for somebody who has 20 plus years of experience coaching running backs, that's pretty impressive. To be the recruiter that he is, that's pretty impressive. I think Robert Gillespie is somebody that you need to look out for who might be the running back coach at Ohio State. Another one is Deuce Staley. Deuce Staley is a former star running back at South Carolina, and he was a long-term running back in the NFL, had a 10-year NFL career, unheard of for running backs today to have NFL careers that long. But he is with the Browns currently right now. He was hired this offseason, so definitely somebody in the NFL that might be a little bit more likely, who isn't recruiting, maybe is a little bit more not on hands right now. But the big connection that you need to pay attention, which I think makes Deuce Staley more likely than some other people, is that he coached running backs and special teams in Philadelphia in 2011 with Chip Kelly and with Ryan Day. That was the team that had Chip Kelly there, had Ryan Day there, and he was with both of them. So Deuce Staley, I think, is somebody who you could very well see be the new running backs coach for Ohio State. If he wants to get back into the college game, if he wants to recruit, things like that, we'll see. But he definitely has those connections, which we know are so huge in college football coaching. Another one, this is a familiar name for you, Stan Drayton. He is at Temple right now. He was the Ohio State running back coach in 2014. Now, people might not be the most fond of him the way he left right after signing day, after signing, who was it? Mike Weber, I believe it was. But he was in charge, and he was, well, maybe not in charge. He was the running backs coach, but he was a key piece of snatching Bijan Robinson from Tony Alford. When he came out of college, that guy who was a silent commit to Ohio State, everybody was so excited for, but he snatched him, brought him to Texas, and had the wonderful career that he had. Now you might be thinking, well John, JR, he's a G5 head coach. He's not going to come be a position coach at Ohio State. Don't be so fast. This has been happening more and more for top tier Power 2 programs to be able to take head coaches from G5 schools and make them position coaches. The Georgia State head coach came to, I believe it was one of the SEC schools, to be a position coach there. There are a good amount of these coaches that are just looking for an out to try to get into Power 2 football because they know I can be a head coach here, but I'm going to get my players poached every year, whether it's the Power 2, whether it's the Big 12, whether it's the ACC. I'm going to be getting all my big talent players poached from me every single year, and it's frustrating for them. So has Stan Drayton had enough? Does he want to make it back to Ohio State? Does he want to win another national championship 10 years later with Ohio State again? I don't know. We'll see. But it seems more common to me than it might seem to other people because of the way college football is currently going. Now, the last one on my list, and this one will be a little controversial. I don't know how to feel about it personally. I don't even know if this is somebody that they'll go after, but I did tweet about it. Ohio State has the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever. Hire Mike Hart as their offensive or as their running back coach for them. Former Michigan running back, all-time leading rusher, rushed for over 5,000 yards at Michigan. And not only was he somebody who had a prestigious career, but he's also been a darn good running back coach. He coached Indiana, where he had Stevie Scott for a couple of years, who made his way to the NFL. Now, he wasn't drafted, but still, getting a running back from Indiana to the NFL has proved to be a task that not a lot of people can accomplish, but Mike Hart did. Not only that, but he also put Hassan Haskins in the NFL. He's also about to put Blake Corum in the NFL. Donovan Edwards seems to have a path to go to the NFL possibly as well. I would not completely rule out Mike Hart. I'm not saying that I'm for it. I'm not saying that it's the best idea ever, but put it in the comments. Let me know. Would you be for Mike Hart coming to Ohio State to be the new running backs coach? I'm curious what Buckeye Nation thinks, because this is a pretty big decision right here. I think the thing that would have to lead him to it, we don't know this for sure, again, this is another rumor, is that Mike Hart was pretty upset that he wasn't given consideration to be the offensive coordinator or to be the head coach at Michigan when Jim Harbaugh left and when Sherrone Moore took over. Is he upset enough? Does he want to get revenge on Sherrone Moore? Does he want to get revenge on his former university? If he was just a coach there, maybe. I can't really see it happening. However, stranger things have happened. Tony Alford from Ohio State to Michigan. Who knows? It could happen. But at the end of the day, will Tony Alford be the difference for Michigan to beat Ohio State? In short, I don't think so. I don't think he'll be the difference. I think that offensive line is more the difference for that running game than the highly skilled running backs. Don't get me wrong. I think Blake Corum is a good running back. I think he has outstanding vision. However, at the end of the day, you only have vision to get through the holes if the holes are there. And I think it's going to be more dependent on if Michigan can have that offensive line that they've had in the past. They don't have a lot of guys coming back. I don't think they have a single starter on their offensive line coming back next year. So we'll see how that goes. The big question to me going forward is not if he's the difference in Michigan and Ohio State, that game, but is he the difference in these recruiting battles? Is he the difference in bringing players to Michigan that Ohio State would go after? He has the Ohio ties. He has the Dublin ties. He has these ties in Ohio to go into these high schools. Now, will these high schools be as receptive to him? I think so. They want to see their guys get into Power 2 football, right? But at the end of the day, is he going to be able to make that happen? He lost out on Jordan Marshall to Michigan. He lost out on Jordan Marshall to Mike Hart, and Mike Hart isn't even there anymore. So is Mike Hart going to go and still be there at Michigan and still be a prolific running back for them? Who knows? We'll see how that goes. I don't know what their relationship is like there. But to me, the most interesting battle going forward is going to be these recruiting battles. Is Tony Alford going to be able to recruit against whoever Ohio State brings in? I tend to believe that Ohio State needs to make sure they bring in an ace recruiter, even if it's somebody from the South, even if somebody out West, whatever it is, bring in an ace recruiter. Ryan Day, Brian Hartline should be able to get him connected well enough in the high schools in Ohio to be able to help him recruit. But at the end of the day, I would love to see Deuce Staley, Stan Drayton, or Robert Gillespie be the running back coach for Ohio State. I am a little bit hesitant on Stan Drayton just because of the way he left and those things happened. But you can't deny the man that coached Ezekiel Elliott. You can't deny the man that was there when Ohio State won their national championship. In my mind, he would be a crazy, crazy option. That would be a lot of fun to see what he could do with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson this year in the backfield. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Comment below your thoughts. Would love to hear from you. Have a good one.